Imagine if you could easily find solutions to make your region or city smarter, greener, better connected, more social, and closer to citizens. The InterEg Europe Policy Learning Platform can help you access knowledge about the latest policy trends, discover expert-validated good practices from all over Europe, find solutions in our peer review, get tailored support from our expert team. We can connect you with the right people and organizations. Together, we will find ways to solve your region's or city's challenges. Start your policy learning journey today.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us for the third InterEg Europe Policy Learning Platform webinar in the series on blue-green infrastructure for resilient cities. Over the last 2 weeks, we have covered the topics of sustainable water management and green infrastructure solutions, mostly in urban areas. And this week, we will focus on citizens' participation in blue-green infrastructure. It's a very important topic that has also been mentioned during the last 2 webinars, and it's relevant for all sorts of projects, not just green and blue infrastructure. My name is Magda Michaliková, and I'm a thematic expert at the InterEg Europe Policy Learning Platform. I would also like to welcome my expert colleagues Astrid Severin, also a thematic expert, and Valentine Defay from our communications team, who is making sure that everything works smoothly today. Before we start, I would like to share some housekeeping rules. And those of you who have been with us for the last 2 weeks, you've already heard this, but we also have some new people in the room. So this webinar is being recorded, and later you will be able to find the recording online on the Policy Learning Platform website, along with all the presentations that you will see and hear today. We have a little chat here in Zoom, so please use it. Don't be shy. Write any questions that you may have. We will always, after each presentation, have time to take these questions. And yes, it's really good to interact with the speakers, but also with one another. Also, don't hesitate to let us know in the chat where you are coming from. At the end of the webinar, there will be a survey that will pop up. So please fill out the survey, give us feedback, let us know how you have liked this event so that we can improve in the future. And now I would like to hand over to my colleague Astrid to introduce the agenda and the policy learning platform a little bit. So over to you, Astrid.
Thank you very much, Magda. So it's my pleasure to introduce to you our agenda today. We have another great lineup of speakers. We will start with a keynote presentation from Thomas Schneider from the city of Ingolstadt, who is going to speak about involving citizens through hybrid participation formats. And then we will go to Belgium with the first good practice that we are presenting with Ine Pertry from the city of Roeselare. She's speaking about small budget actions to mobilize citizens. And then we are going to Italy, the Municipality of Reggio Emilia. And unfortunately, Francesca is ill today, but has a great replacement with Andrea, who is going to present to us the citizen participation in the design of the greenways. And then we will go to Latvia, hear about the gardens of Sports Palace with Nika, who is going to present that to us as well. Then we will follow all the presentations with questions and answers so that you have good opportunity to also ask the experts which are here today. And we will have a little panel discussion at the end before wrapping up our webinar series. So the policy learning platform of Interreg Europe is organizing this webinar and many other webinars around interesting topics. So we are serving our community and all other interested parties with webinars, online events, but also on-site events, which you can visit. We have all the information available on our portal, so you can also watch the recordings of our webinars later and read all the key learnings and access interesting links. And also today's webinar, all the presentations will be available and also what we have learned from the webinar. We're also providing specific tailor-made expertise through two services, which we are calling a peer review. That's a 2-day event where we are answering specific challenges, policy challenges that you might have in your city or your region. And we also have the little brother event, which is a matchmaking, which is 2 hours and where we also can answer specific questions. And finally, and last but not least, we provide a lot of knowledge. We have a huge database of good practices, and you can also always approach us if you have any specific questions. So in the good practice database, you will find many thousands of good practices, which you can search. Just here, you will see some examples, for example, on citizen participation for the development of green roofs or the urban allotment gardens for citizens, which are featured in there. Also other citizen participation projects. For example, we have here a very inspiring good practice called the disco soup, where citizens participate in preventing food waste. And then we would like to just raise your awareness to our next upcoming citizen workshop that will be taking place on the 14th of November. And it will focus on enhancing the benefits of urban-rural linkages. And in time for the workshop, we will also have a brand new policy brief on the issue, which we will present at that occasion. So just a little glimpse of what we're doing at the Policy Learning Platform, and we're always happy to see you at our events or to answer any of your questions. So with this, I give the word back to Magda.
Thank you very much, Astrid. So now that you know who we are, we would also like to know who you are. And with that, I would like to ask Valentin to launch our first poll. You can find the link to answer the poll in the chat, or you can also find a QR code on the screen to join. And we will also have some more polls coming later. So yes, so let us know what type of organization you're coming from. We have also been asking this in the last 2 webinars, but as I said, not everybody was there. So we just want to see if you're coming from local, regional, or national authority, from an NGO, from private sector body, from academia, or maybe you're coming from a different organization that doesn't really fit into any of these, or maybe you're coming from an EU institution. So we can see that we have most people coming from the local, regional, national authorities, 3/4. So great. I think this will be very, very relevant for everybody here, but hopefully you will find some inspiring actions that you can transfer to your municipalities and regions. Okay, thank you very much. And with this, I would like to introduce our keynote speaker, Mr. Thomas Schneider, who will share his experience with involving citizens through hybrid participation formats that share with us what they have done in the city of Ingolstadt. So Thomas.
Thank you, Magda. I try to share the right screen. Must be this one. So
Yes.
do you see the presentation? Okay.
Yes, perfect.
So thank you. Then I can begin. Thank you for the participation of, I thought it was more than 60 persons I saw here. And I hope everybody can take some useful thoughts out of my following presentation. My name is Thomas Schneider. I'm responsible in the city administration of Ingolstadt for climate, biodiversity, and the Danube. We are all in all 5 colleagues here, and we are directly subordinated to the 3rd mayor of Ingolstadt. You see on this slide also our logo 2035 degrees, which means that Ingolstadt has the aim to be climate neutral in the year 2035, and it should not be much hotter than this temperature, 35 degrees. So that's our aim. We have also a website, 2035.de. You can look on it if you are interested. We informed there about our aims and the measures for it. But now I come back to the topic of the presentation, dealing with involving citizens through hybrid participation formats. Yeah, where does it come from? I want to give you a more detailed insight of a good practice about citizen participation for blue and green infrastructure. Where does this good practice come from? The good practice is an outcome of the Interreg Europe project Blue Green City. It took place from August 2019 till January 2033. Blue Green City seeks to improve policies that promote blue and green infrastructure as a part of a local or a regional natural heritage preservation strategy. Ingolstadt took part with the Stadtpark Donau, what means the idea of the Danube as the main axis of the blue-green infrastructure to strengthen both biodiversity and recreation. For us, it was very important to take also the animals and the nature in our planning. During the project, we had to develop a plan with several actions, and we identified the hybrid participation process to involve citizens in the planning process for blue and green infrastructure. This action was also included in the list of good practices by the Interreg Europe program, as showed just before, and we are proud of this, that it is a good practice now on European level. So, what was the first step in this task? Participation is, of course, necessary regarding all stakeholder groups. But for companies, politicians, administratives, and universities, it is quite clear how to involve them because they are officials and they are professionals and do it often, they are often part of such participation processes. But our good practice aims to involve all citizens. But for the normal citizens, there are some barriers to participate. And our first step was to analyze these barriers. So the barriers are that they often don't know much about the issue. We want to participate them, and therefore we have to give first some information about. And then the people often have no concrete image of, especially in this case, blue and green infrastructure. And therefore we thought we have to show it what means blue and green infrastructure. And the third thing is that there is a problem of spreading these offers. And this should not be underestimated because there are so much different communication channels like social media, radio, TV, newspaper, and so on. So it's not easy to reach all the people using only one or two of the channels. So was the second steps after we identified these challenges. to look for a new approach for citizens' participation. And we made in workshops and with planners and with experts for communication, we developed the idea of a hybrid participation format. And hybrid means in this case both face-to-face and online. Of course, the communication experts had to learn first about blue and green infrastructure, and the planners had to learn more about communication. To bring this project to life, we contracted therefore Kotoviča, which is a regional process moderator, and he really facilitated the mutual understanding between these groups. In the third step, we elaborated 3 main points, and the main points sound pretty simple, as you see. First, think outside the box. So keep your mind open for what is near of your site. We thought about cultural themes, for example. And second, make it visible and tangible. And third, use as many channels as possible. In the next slides, I will show you the examples for all these proposals to make it more concrete for you. So, bringing it to life, how should we do this? Thinking outside the box. To reach a broader public and not always the same people who are well informed and engaged. I think all of you who works with citizens know that if you make a workshop or so on, always the same people are coming. But in this case, we want to bring also people who are not informed and who are quite not interested in our topic of PGI, bring together and bring them to engage them. So we choose to integrate the participation into a town festival. The town festival was the Danube Lust. The venue of this festival consisted of a usually quite busy Danube shoreline road that had been closed for traffic for 10 consecutive days from 2nd to 12th September 2021. The road was partly used as a playground for kids and a beach volleyball court, and most of the asphalt was covered with road turf. As the festival offered catering as well as various activities, we expected a huge and diverse crowd to attend the festival, and it was so. We assumed that the setting of the festival would also stimulate citizens to think about the future development of the Danube and its shores. And we were really right. The festival was a big success, and it was a big party for the people and also a big opportunity to participate citizens in the development of the blue-green city and the blue-green infrastructure along the Danube. How did we the participation? The framework of the participation process consisted of 10 posters. You can see it on the slide. These are the posters. And the slogan was "Our Danube, your ideas, your decision." The 10 posters were right along the Danube shore. And during the festival, all people can go there, can look at it, can see what other people write down there. And it was really interesting. So the posters showed ancient sites like this. It's 100 years, the Danube shore 100 years ago. And also planned and implemented projects on the rivers. And they prompted the visitors to express their opinion. And to the end, they could scan the QR code was there on the posters and were directly directed to the online participation platform. Alternatively, for less tech-affine visitors, they could voice their ideas on sticky notes or on the posters in a huge whiteboard, which we photographed every morning, and we renewed it also every morning. So the next slide has a problem. So now to the online participation. There's a second form of participation, not face-to-face now, but now online. In quantitative terms, we registered 562 contributions during the 10 days of the festival, and I think it is a clear sign that the citizens take great interest in the future of the city's blue and green infrastructure, and especially in the Danube. In qualitative terms, we were positively surprised by the breadth and the depth of the ideas stated by the participants. The participation event yielded a great number of salient contributions that can be integrated in the further planning process. Moreover, the Blue Green City project was popularized among the local community, and this is also very important because Interreg projects should always come to more public. So let's come to the budget, always an interesting part. To be honest, the festival was very expensive, but it was funded by the cultural department, not by the climate department. And our participation progress was a synergy with them. So we didn't have any financial obligations with it. Our department was involved with 3 persons. We took turns in being present, therefore 3 persons. And the waterproof posters costed about 100 euro each. And we still use these posters. And the online platform Ingolstadt macht mit, Ingolstadt takes part, is used by the whole administration. So also there we had no extra costs with it. And so the next slide stops again. So I'm coming slowly to the end and try a short summary of it. We sought to show a new way towards integrating the preferences and the creative input of local residents in the planning process. Empowering citizens to shape proposals on future land use allows a more socially inclusive and user-oriented development of BGI, while fostering a sense of site ownership in the local community. Regions may choose to adopt our concrete proceedings, like the framework consisting of posters to be commented, embedded in a festival, or to retain the general idea of the practice, that of capturing a wide diversity of community views via diverse participation formats with stakeholders and citizens, digital or on-site. It is most important to adapt these practices to the local context and to keep continuously adjusting the participation instruments to the feedback received. In doing so, the public authorities will increase the chills of the participation process and make sure that the citizens feel that their input is taken seriously. This is, for me, one of the most important points. The citizens have to feel that their input is taken into account. Only to ask them and then say here, never from the output that destroys your serious work. Yeah. So it's now my last slide, And as you can see, the wildlife is coming to Ingolstadt to participate in the blue-green infrastructure. And thank you for your attention. And you can ask now, we can discuss some things if you want. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Thomas, for an excellent presentation and also for sharing your experience. I think this hybrid format is very interesting and important and inspirational for our participants, for sure. You've made a point that I liked, that you need to make the issue visible and use as many channels as possible to communicate it, which I think is very key. And also that the citizens have to feel that their input has been taken into account, which of course, if we want them to be involved in the future, they have to see that somebody is really looking into what they are proposing. I was wondering, because I really liked the festival that you made and the posters and the possibility to vote with Post-it notes, but also online. And I wanted to ask a couple of questions. For how long were the posters there for? So how long was it kind of open for participants to vote? And also, yes, go ahead.
Should I answer now, or do you have more questions?
I have more, but you can answer and then I will ask.
Okay, it was open all the 10 days.
10 days, great. And then I wanted to also know how many participants did you have?
The participants in the festival, I don't know exactly because it was not counted, but I think every day it was always good weather. That's also important, of course. And when the sun is shining in the evening, it's not too cold. And it was in this case, so we had every day hundreds of visitors.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much. We have a lot of questions. Okay, so I would say we take some of the questions and then we go to our polls. So the first question in the chat we had from Sheil was, were all the citizens enthusiastic about the hybrid format you described? Were some reluctant about the online approach, for instance? And if so, how did you go on about this reluctancy?
Yes, I think all the people were enthusiastic because they had these different ways to participate. Because not all of the people want to tell us their thoughts directly, but they want to think about, and they can, during 24 hours a day, use the participation platform on Ingolstadt macht mit and take their thoughts and divide their thoughts with us. And I think that was really the most important thing. And we heard not one negative voice about that. So,
great. Yes, I think that answers the question. Then another question we had from Ferenc Rader was regarding blue infrastructure. How have you, or how do you handle conflicts with nature? Do citizens complain about, for example, mosquitoes? Do you have any kind of special measures regarding that? And then he's asking also about another topic, which is beavers. And how do you handle beavers if you have them in the city?
Yes,
so more kind of natural questions. So if you have
we have mosquitoes and we have beavers. Okay, we have both. The beaver is relatively simply because all the big trees along the Danube, we had some wire around, and so the beaver can't cut the big trees. So that's really not a problem. You buy some wires, put it around the trunks, and it's easy to protect them against the beaver. And the second one, what can we do with mosquitoes? We have not big problems, only small problems, and we have autumn. So that is also not a problem. But the problem, or really problem, is to bring the needs of animals and people together. And therefore, we have also a project with the Technical University of Munich and with the TU Vienna. It's about using animal-aided design. It's a tool how to bring the needs of wild animals and people together. So you can look in the internet for animal-aided design. You find some information. For here, I think it's too much to tell more about it. Really, there's a
the
point.
Maybe you can share.
The point is to bring the needs of animals and people together.
Yeah, finding a balance. I think you can maybe share the link in the chat afterwards.
Okay, afterwards I look for it. I don't know it.
Yeah. And there was also additional question from parents, if you can swim in the river in the city.
Yes, definitely. Every day of the Danube, it's always the 29th of June. We make a Danube swimming event. And of course, you can also swim during the year. If you want, it's not recommended because it's dangerous and you don't know what bacteria are in the Danube, but it's possible. I do it. For me, I think it's not dangerous, but we cannot recommend it really.
Right, I understand.
But it's really nice.
Another question from Liz. How did you make citizens feel that their input was taken into account?
That was only online, and we put all the recommendations and thoughts of the citizens on the online platform, and we make some. We put them together, what is similar, and we give always an answer why we can do this, or sometimes our things are yet done, and so you can read it on this platform.
And then maybe a last question that I will take from the chat. We have some more, but yes, we will answer them afterwards or maybe at the end of the webinar. Can you tell us about the most usable or interesting outcome that has came out of your kind of exercise?
Yes, I think the most important outcome for us is that the people want to use the Danube shores for recreation and not for motor cars, because it was as I said, it was on a street which is normally very busy with vehicles, and they really liked that it was closed and that it was green. And we have now new plans to build this street back, and I hope it will really work. But we have Audi in Ingolstadt, and therefore it's not so easy.
Yeah,
You are a car town.
Yeah, that's true. Also, finding a balance between what the beaver wants, what citizens wants, and what Audi wants.
Yes, and not all citizens want the same. That's a problem.
Yes. Great, Thomas. Thank you very much. We will for all of you whose questions have not been answered yet, we will definitely answer them, either in writing or towards the end, depending on how much time we have. And now I would like to ask Valentin to launch the second poll that we have for you. And here we would like to know a little bit what you think are the barriers yes, so what do you perceive as the biggest barrier to citizen participation in blue-green infrastructure projects? So Thomas has been talking about this a little bit in his presentation, and you can select all things that you think apply. So maybe it's a lack of awareness, lack of trust, time constraints, low culture of citizen participation in your region, or maybe some other things that you can type in the chat. Yeah, so we can see a lot. You think lack of awareness, lack of information, that maybe people don't know that it's possible. So reaching people with that information is seems to be quite a recurring theme already. Lack of trust and lack of interest are on the second positions together. And then low culture of citizen participation is also 30% of you feels like is one of the barriers. Perfect. So thank you very much for voting. I think that we can see the trend quite clearly already. And then for another activity, another poll or a word cloud, we would like to know what you think, what type of activities has your organization used to encourage citizens to get involved in blue-green infrastructure projects? Or for that sense, I mean, it doesn't need to be only blue-green infrastructure. So maybe you've used workshops, you've used community meetings where people can express their opinions, you've had volunteer days, some sorts of competitions, or you maybe have a participatory budget in your city. Okay, so we can see workshops are definitely used quite a lot. We also have social walks, info days, different forms of festivals, different forms of trainings, focus groups, hackathons. Also, yes, hackathons are also very good. Research activities, urban living labs, involving schools and yes, working with kind of education and the youth, cleanup events, questionnaires, laboratories for young people. Yeah, so quite a lot of different ideas. It's great to see that you're trying to get your communities involved. So thank you very much for that and for participating in the polls. And now we'll go to our good practice sessions. And we will start with our next speaker, who is Ine Pertry from the city of Roeselare. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly because it's always an issue for me. And Ine will present a small budget actions to mobilize citizens in climate adaptation. So Ine, please share your screen and the floor is yours.
Okay, you should see my full screen presentation now. Thank you. So my name is Ine Pertry. I work as a project manager on the topics of climate and energy with the city of Roeselare in Belgium. And today I'm going to present one of the good practices we identified within the InterRevita project. So the city of Roeselare developed its climate plan, and we also have a climate program to implement the actions. We also signed the local energy and climate pact, and towards the end of 2030, the city must meet a number of climate objectives. Now, specifically for blue-green infrastructure, this means that per inhabitant of the city, we have 1 square meter that we need to deseal. We need to plant 1 tree, provide 1 cubic meters of water infiltration, 0.5 meters of hedges or facade gardens, and provide 1 flower bed per 1,000 inhabitants. Now, we are doing quite a lot of actions ourselves on the public domain, but we also think that citizens can help us in shaping these climate objectives. So to this end, we are running a number of actions in which citizens and neighborhoods can participate. And today I'm going to introduce you to 4 specific actions that we are doing. Behaag Roeselare, facade gardens, the love tree action, and our neighborhood challenges. So first, let's start with the facade gardens. So what does it entail? It means that citizens remove tiles from the pavewalk, so it's on the public domain, that are next to their facade of their home. And instead, they plant blossoming plants. Because it's on the public domain, so we have integrated some conditions in our city regulations that they have to meet. And I think it's important, the choice that we made. When people want to do this, they have to notify, but they do not have to file for a permit. So we think that this lowers the barrier to go ahead and integrate these facade gardens. We have 2 different approaches. So we try to motivate individual households to do this, but we also have street actions. So if in your street you find 8 households that are willing to implement these facade gardens, then the city will support this. So then we organize information sessions, we give technical advice, we give advice on the type of plants you can use. We will also remove the tiles and buy the plants. What you then have to do as a household is organize the planting yourself. And of course, afterwards, you are responsible for the maintenance of your facade garden. So since the time that we've been doing this, we have some first results. In 2022 and 23, we had 2 street projects with a total of 27 houses. And in addition, another 29 people took an individual action to create the facade garden themselves. And for 2024, up until now, we have 3 streets that joined together with a total of 48 participants and already 12 individual actions. Now, some of the lessons that we have learned is that we have quite a communication challenge, because this action with the facade garden is like a permanent action. It's not that we organize this 1 time a year, but it's open throughout the year. So it's quite a challenge to keep people informed continuously. So we use flyers, but now we are also implementing these blue-green infrastructure measures when we organize other events. And specifically for the street action approach, we learned that the bigger the projects get, it can be a challenge for the distribution of the plants, because you get many plants, many different households. So you need to organize this really well. And from our side, it means quite some time investment. And before, we organized it street per street action, which means we had to look for every time for a contractor. But for them, these kind of works are small jobs for them, so it's more difficult and also more expensive to find a contractor. So now we switched to a framework contract so that we can make use of that for upcoming street actions. But the advantage is that we can recommend the citizens which plants to use. We also get to learn to know our target group. We get to know a bit the hesitations, why are they doing it? So it helps us in our future communications. And by having these street actions, it multiplies the effect because you have more visibility of your facade gardens in one street. And we expect, or we hope, that with time, with the number of increasing facade gardens in the city, that people will recognize this more and will also want to take more actions themselves. Then we have another action. It's Behaag Roeselare. If you translate this in English, it's hedge and please Roeselare. So we organize a joint purchase of native trees and hedge packages because these kind of plants are more difficult to find, but also by organizing the joint purchase, people can acquire them at a better price. So we open up the purchase at the web shop, and then in mid-December we distribute the plants that have been bought. In 2023, this resulted in 26 trees and 1,296 hedge plants, which was good for 324 meters of additional hedges, so planted on private property. And in 2024, the action is still running. It's open till the end of November. So far already we have an order for 27 trees and 110 meters of hedges. Again here, large packages, many different clients, so it can be a challenge to do the distribution from our side. And again, the communication, how do you reach all citizens to inform them about the actions? Then our love tree actions. So for Valentine's Day, the citizens of Roeselare can receive a free plant package, and they are distributed on the Saturday before it's Valentine's Day. For this action, we collaborate with an NGO, Meer Bomen in Roeselare, which stands for More Trees in the city of Roeselare. So they organize it practically, and we assist logistically, and we distribute the trees in the city center. So for the past years, we have quite a success in the number of bushes that have been distributed. But some important lessons that we learned. It's for free, which also means that sometimes people register, but they do not come and pick up their trees. And also the first time we organized it, the distribution was not yet digitally, so it was a bit difficult to coordinate between the different pickup points. So we changed to a digital format to organize this. And then lastly, our neighborhood challenges. So we organized like a competition between different neighborhoods to focus on topics linked to biodiversity. We challenged them to do work activities, educational activities, campaigning. So for example, the neighborhood joined to plant flower bulbs, or they did they constructed little bird houses, or they organized informational sessions on how you can make your garden more climate adaptive. So we organized this in 2022. And 3 neighborhoods participated in the challenge. And what we learned is that there were a lot of young families that wanted to act and participated. that it was most difficult to get people to the educational sessions. So it was more the activities, the workshops that got the most people there. And also, this is maybe a bit surprisingly, they cared the most about improving their own district. The contest aspect was not that important to them. But we also saw that because it was 3 neighborhoods at one time, that both for us, but also in the neighborhood, we are looking for some initiators to take the lead, that this was really a big time investment. So we organized this in 2022. We are thinking to do something similar again next year, but it will be taking into account the lessons learned. It might be a slightly changed format, and maybe one neighborhood or one district at a time. And that's it from my part. So thank you very much. If there are questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you very much, Ine. Yes, we have a lot of questions. A lot of questions in the chat. First of all, congratulations. I think all of these initiatives you're doing are really exciting, and you can see that people really want to do it as well. You know, that if you nudge them a little bit, people really want to improve their environment and bring kind of green infrastructure into their neighborhoods, which is really nice. I also like that you have all these very, very specific targets regarding, you know, different things, tree planting, desealing, facade gardens. And I think having these very specific targets is something that's also really important, and maybe something that our participants can draw inspiration from as well. So let's go to the questions and let's see how many we can answer. So first one we have here is from Albert. So Albert is saying, you have a lot of trees to plant. Where are they going to be planted? And is there enough space? And what size is being planted?
You're talking about the target now, right? Yes, we do have quite a lot of trees to be planted. And one important aspect about the figure is that it's non-forest trees. So the trees that we plant in our forest area that we have does not count. But we do have the space, but this is also why we are looking at citizens, and we are doing these actions and distribution packages, so people can also plant the trees in their own gardens. So it's a mix. I'm thinking for now we are about 26% in our target, so we still have quite some trees to plant. But gradually we are getting there. Yeah.
Great. And now we have a series of questions, a lot of questions that are related to the green facades. So from Tuli, we have a question. What regulations or requirements arising from legislation must residents consider when building a facade garden?
Yeah. We have some very specific regulations about the maximum width. It cannot be more than 60 centimeters width, but taking into account the free space that you still have on the paved walk. So people still need to be able to pass by without any obstructions. There's also, if there are any signs or public notifications at the walls, they still need to be visible. You cannot cross, of course, the line with your neighbor. You need to take into account if there are pipelines going through underneath, that you don't damage them. So this is all laid out in the regulations. I can put the link in the chat. Of course, they are in Dutch, but I guess with translation programs, you can have a look at them. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. I think that would be very useful. Then we had a question from Emilia, also in relation to the facade garden. Do you provide tools or machinery for people to remove the tiles? Is there any kind of insurance for them in case they get hurt or damage something in the street? And do you have to develop any kind of agreement with the shops at street level when these actions are developing next to their walls?
We only when it's the street action, we remove the tiles. So we make sure there's a contractor that does the work. If it's an individual action, then the people are responsible themselves. So that's the distinction. And about the shops, I'm not aware of any agreements because if you do a facade garden, it's only your own facade. If there are multiple owners in the building, everybody has to agree. So that is the case, but you cannot go wider than your own facade. Yeah.
Great. Then from several participants, we've had questions on how do you deal with fear of damaging houses by plants and kind of risk of moisture in the building that would be a result of this facade garden.
For this, I'm not really the expert there myself, but we do have our thematic experts. They know the plants, they can give advice, they go and look at the situation. So they really can give advice what to plant, what not to plant. We also have a list of plants that you cannot use, so you cannot go for non-invasive plants. We also have a list of plants that we would recommend to use. But we do give advice to the people. Yeah.
Do you also have some sort of list of plants that can and cannot be planted?
Yeah. So I just mentioned that it's also. I think it's also in the regulations, so I will put the link in the chat.
Right. Thank you. We've also had, in relation to the hedge, and please, Roeselare, if you have any kind of monitoring in terms of the use and survival of the trees and hedges sold in that program.
That's a good question, but that I would have to check with my colleague who is responsible for the daily operation.
Great. Maybe we can then get back to that after the webinar. Okay. I think we will move on. We have some more questions, but again, we'll have to tackle some of these later. So now we go to our second speaker, and I think that is Andrea. So Andrea Porcelluzzi from the Municipality of Reggio Emilia in Italy will speak about the citizen participation in the design of their greenways.
Okay, good morning to everybody. And while I try to share my screen, you should see it now. Is it correct? Okay. So as already stated at the beginning, I'm here actually for a very last-minute replacement of my colleague Francesca, who is ill right now. But I will do my best to present you the good practice of the greenways. So what we are talking about is, in a nutshell, is sustainable mobility initiatives to engaging local communities in the co-creation of a very dense network of peripheral paths. Few key information. We are in the Municipality of Reggio Emilia, which is more or less 230 kilometers, square kilometers. And there is very dense historic center, peri-urban areas, and then several scattered villages. And we have more or less 76% of rural areas in the total of the municipal land. So Given these conditions, the issues to be solved was to improve and enhance sustainable mobility solutions, in particular in the peripheral and rural areas, both to connect within the villages with specific and relevant places like parish, schools, sports facilities, but also to create sustainable connection and mobility connection with the historical city center. So the key objectives was to engage the local communities in the completing and refurbishing of this network of paths. But also this implies to re-evaluate and to rediscover also the ecological but also cultural values of the landscape and heritage, as well to strengthen social cohesion, in particular in these areas. So the process the backbone of the process was the creation of these neighborhood labs. We were located in the several places within the municipality area, and from these neighborhood labs were basically workshops and meetings with the local communities. Were made several citizenship agreements, and for each context and each areas were made specific agreements, also according to the conditions, the specific situation, and also the availability of this of the possibility to create this kind of network of trails and paths. And the citizenship agreements was approved and coordinated by the municipality. And each agreement detailed the responsibilities of each party. So which is in charge of the municipality, which is in charge of the CSOs and citizens and other stakeholders. So for instance, farmers who own the land where the paths are made. And project duration, it's still ongoing. It started in 2015. With several stages of development and fundings. We do not have right here the exact figures, but we are not talking of big amounts. More or less, it's about 4,000 or 5,000 euros for each agreements, specifically for minor materials and agreement with local associations for maintenance, and of course staff cost, because there was two full-time person in the municipality engaging the communities, and then if needed staff from other departments, for instance for permissions and so on. And as I already says, the responsibilities change according to each single project. But mainly the municipality provides this small financial contribution and is responsible for coordination and monitoring and the communication of the initiatives. And while the local associations are responsible for the and not only for the design, but also for the small maintenance of this kind of trails, while there was an agreement with the Italian Alpine Club that is historically in Italy is the national associations dealing with the creation of this kind of paths and trails, of course in the mountains, but not only. And while the minor maintenance was performed by volunteers. And so few figures. We have 23 greenways created, and you can see here the map. And 14 of these were integrated in the Sustainable Mobility Plan, complementing the traditional cycling and pedestrian routes. More or less, we were more than 30 meetings organized with local communities to co-design this kind of paths. And now what we're working is also to switch the focus not only on the mobility issues, but also to leverage on this kind of soft infrastructure also to enhance the cultural value of the landscape of the areas. And of course, engaging local communities strengthened also social cohesion and awareness also on environmental issues and values. Potential for transferability, well, of course, this was not made out of the blue, and there was the backbone, I would say, of this initiative was the work that was already done by the municipality to implement this participatory approach. The staff of the municipality deals with this kind of citizenship agreements and labs, where we call it the neighborhood architects. And each neighborhood has also its own infrastructure, that is a neighborhood home where volunteers, associations, and citizens can gather together and also work on this kind of projects. And of course, there is a very strong tradition of volunteering, and this is also a key. So the role of a municipality was really to facilitate, to enable the already existing local associations in taking care of this kind of soft infrastructure. And another say transferability feature is the availability of also not only of the citizens but of all the stakeholders in an area to be engaged in this kind of work. And so, for instance, as I was saying, farmers, but also, I don't know, local enterprises, also for small sponsorship if available, and so on. As I said, this is a very general explanation of the project, but then actually there was several specific projects to implement the path in each of the areas of the municipality, and each of them had their peculiarities. So this is very, I would say, briefly the experience, and I will do my best also to answer for the questions may raised, and if one possible, I will check with my colleagues and get you feedbacks after.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Andrea. Again, it's a great example and very successful. I mean, you already have really good amount of work behind you and results that you have achieved with the kilometers of greenways implemented. You raised an important point of involving also the local associations and involving farmers. We see involvement of farmers in all sorts of kind of, let's say, land use topics, you know, flood prevention, etc. as really crucial and important. So thank you for raising that as well. We have a question in the chat. Is the major maintenance managed by CAE, so not CIA, but almost, financed by the municipality?
Yeah, there are specific agreements for each project, and there is a small budget for this. It was more or less about 3,000–4,000 euros for each project. But and then I think it's also a part of self-contribution of the Alpine Association.
Great, thank you very much. So let's see if we have any more questions. Yes, Astrid?
Well, thank you very much for this interesting presentation. I have a small question on the target audiences that you have been reaching out to. You have been saying here you have like about 50 meetings that you have been holding, these neighborhood labs. So did you make sure that all kind of, you know, citizen groups could participate, like young people or men, women? I don't know. Like, how did you manage that?
Yeah, so of course, if we are talking about volunteers, usually you have a very specific target that may, so basically are people that are on retirement or that are also more time to be engaged in this kind of activities. But as each specific project were very related to the local communities, so the local areas, there was we try to engage also other targets. For instance, we specifically for raising awareness of the possibility also to use this kind of path, we try to engage schools, so children, for instance, and so and from children also families living in the areas, and also not only we worked on the neighborhood labs as the neighborhood home, but also we tried other way to communicate with people, so working people living in the area and so on. Of course, the time availability is a key barrier for this kind of to accede also to this kind of project.
Thank you very much. No, I just remembered also like the redesign of a square in Vienna, where they were trying to be at different times of the day, so they get different types of people that are using the square at these different times. So that was very interesting. And then they could always see what kind of groups have not been involved, and then specifically have some actions for those groups as well.
I know that several times the meeting was organized like a very late afternoon or even evening, so even working people can join, for instance.
Thank you very much, Andrea. Okay, so with this, we go to our last but not least, of course, speaker, to Nika Kotoviča, who is coming from the city of Riga in Latvia, and she will speak about a project that they have called Gardens of Sports Palace. So the floor is yours, Nika.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Nika Kotoviča. I'm an urban planner working at the city of Riga, and I'll take you now for some minutes to our beautiful city of Riga, the capital of Latvia, which is not only as you see behind me, a historical heritage prescribed in the UNESCO heritage list, nice and green city, but more important, we are now participants of the EU's mission 100 smart and climate neutral cities. And as part, being the member of this mission, we are having very ambitious policies. We have bold commitments. We have high targets, and we have a lot of inspiring projects towards reaching our climate goals. And this is one of such projects which I'm going to present to you now. And in the very beginning, to make it very clear. So, because we are speaking today about the
Nika, I'm sorry to interrupt you. We just can't see your presentation in full screen mode yet.
Okay, it's in full screen mode for me. Very strange. Can you see it now?
No, maybe Valentin.
Yeah, can you just relaunch the sharing with just sharing your old screen? Because it's usually happen when you start sharing with the PowerPoint app.
So how is it now?
Yes, now it's perfect. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yeah. So I stopped saying that as a mission city, we are negotiating a climate city contract, which brings this citizen participation to a very different level, because basically the climate city contract is an agreement among the municipality, local stakeholders, local businesses, local academia, and local citizens for a joint action towards climate change. But now let's go to our best practice, and let's step back some 55 years. So that's the city of Riga. It's a very central location, and during the Soviet time, the Soviet government built for people the huge multifunctional sports center, the first center like that in Riga and Latvia. And although this was a very ambitious project, it was done like within 1 year. And as you can already see, the construction itself was not of the highest quality. So some 40 years ago, the sports center looked very bad, and it was dangerous for having sports events there. So basically, it was demolished. And the owner of the land plot had a lot of ambitious plans. However, so those plans somehow never were realized. So in 2010, the sports palace was demolished, and in 2020, you could see such a nice and green area in the place where previously we had this building, but it looks green just from the bird's eye. If you look from the street level, all you see is this 2.5 meter high fence covering this territory from eyes. So this territory was not accessible for citizens. So here, the temporary use was a solution. How to solve that let's say, challenge in the urban environment. And in 2020, activists of the neighborhood of the surrounding buildings initiated this project as a bottom-up and citizen-led initiative for making this place inclusive, livable, and as a quality place in the city. So, what was the business case of this initiative? I would call it as a no-cost action, because in the beginning, two main parties made a non-commercial agreement. So the owner of the land plot, which was abandoned, gave this land plot for free for next 5 years to local community, and local community invested their efforts, their free time, their creativity, and their ideas in developing of this area as a nice urban gardens. So all what the gardeners had to pay was a very symbolic fixed fee of €5 per garden box per season. And they also had to pay once a year a bill for utilities and services, which included, well, nearly everything like water, electricity, biodegradable toilets, and other things. And this was a fixed fee of €60 per season per gardener per family. However, considerable discounts were also offered to vulnerable gardeners. Yeah, so here we can see how it looks from inside. But basically, this slide very well explains the role of different stakeholders, because here, as I said, socially active residents and commercial partners were involved in the non-commercial agreements that everyone supplied what he could supply to this initiative free of charge, like plants and soil and fertilizers and some gardening tools, and city invested in LED lights, and city also invested in water and sewerage supply. So this was how it was set up, and in 2020-21, and then run for the next 3 years, hosting lots of educational activities, different cultural events, just providing free of charge space for local citizens, actually for everyone in Riga. As I said, definitely free of charge, where people could come and spend their free time. And what is important for this initiative, that the key priority of the local community was to make this place accessible financially, socially, physically, as I explained in the previous slides. And the community was really put at the heart of this initiative. So it's a community-led initiative with fully managed by local community, where all the agreements are made in a democratic way, and the community is developing itself. So here we can see a glimpse of different cultural events, again, organized by local community, attracting local artists, and people are spending a high quality free time in this beautiful area. So, but what are the main conclusions from this initiative? I mentioned several times that actually the municipal role was very indirect in this project. So we let this project happen, and we just provided some basic regulations for doing this kind of activity to make it as safe and as inclusive as possible for any citizen of city of Riga. However, the owners of the initiative themselves concluded that the more the municipality feels such pressure or such demand from local inhabitants, the more places like that will be developed and in our city. It's another message I want to communicate is that it's of highest importance as a city to motivate and to encourage private sector for implementing such urban initiatives. And in order to make it possible, we as a city have to make a register of different empty spaces whenever these are empty buildings or empty land plots, and provide methodology and tools how we could use those empty spaces for making our urban environment more beautiful, as well as encouraging climate action, this joint climate action, which I explained in the beginning of my presentation. So I tried to be brief to follow the time schedule, so I'm now open for the questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nika. Yes, this is a great example, and I think it nicely complements the other presentations that we've heard, because this one is a little bit different. It's a community-led project. You're also showing that sometimes the municipality can just like not be in a way and try to actively support projects that are already kind of popping up by themselves, which I think is very, very important. And of course, a great point that you raised towards the end. As a municipality, you can support such projects by keeping a register of empty buildings, empty slots, brownfields, and providing guidance on how can people use them and making people aware that they can use them for their community activities and ideas. So thank you very much for that. And we will take some of the questions in the chat. So we had a question: how big are the garden boxes for every tenant?
Well, it seems that I passed that slide. There are different sizes garden boxes, but basically, one gardener can have 1 or 2 and 3, and these are just a couple of square meters. Yeah, but like box, it's height and wide and length. So the precise figures I can look back, and it's also in a presentation, which will probably be shared.
Yes. There was also a question if the area is somehow monitored in order to protect the garden plots. So is there any kind of security implemented on the ground?
Yeah, thank you very much for an excellent question. This is definitely organized by the community itself. And as altogether, there are about 150 gardeners who take care of those gardens. They have this plotting schedule of being guards of the place. So they are there for 24 hours and they supervise the place. And in case of emergency, so there are other municipal institutions to be involved if there is a robbery or if there is any other disturbance in the place. So basically maintained, managed, also supervised by those inhabitants who do the gardening in this place.
Thank you. There's also a question, were there other such places in Riga, or was this kind of a one-shot initiative?
Well, Latvians love Latvians love gardening, and the gardening is probably the most popular leisure activity in my city. There are many urban gardens in Riga. However, none of them is so close to the historical center. Basically, being a part of historical center, just about 800 meters from Old Town. And of course, this is temporary. It couldn't be permanent, and it doesn't need to be permanent. So this is the way how we can improve the quality of green infrastructures in our city, and to have a high quality urban greening, also providing us with adaptation potential to climate change.
Yes, thank you. And a last question that I will take, what will happen after 5 years when the private owner will request the land back? Can the municipality buy the land and leave it to the community?
Well, that would not be the aim of the city. This is definitely a temporary use and temporary function, because we still believe that nice housing or nice business center would be a better idea than keeping those soil boxes in this place in the long run. However, while the owner of the place is deciding and finding the funding for his ideas, which didn't happen by now, it's a really great sample. How can you use such an abandoned territories, again, based on the temporary use principle? So answer is no, but the city therefore needs to map different other territories and offer them to other initiatives for similar actions.
Great. Thank you, Nika.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we have a couple of minutes left, and I would just like to ask all of our speakers from today. First of all, thank you very much. I think all of your presentations were excellent, and we've seen also from the number of questions that people were really interested in your experiences and examples. So just to kind of summarize, if each of you could maybe give us some key takeaways from the webinar, and we can start with you, Thomas.
Thomas, you still
So,
muted.
yo, now you can hear me. Excuse me.
Yes, no worries.
Yes. What do you mean with the keys, from my own or from the other participants and presentation?
Just kind of overall key messages
Yes.
that you think stood out.
For me, the key message is really that we have to improve all our participation tasks. It's very nice to bring all the people together, but I don't know who mentioned it also. The question is, I think it was Andrea, the question is how to involve people who are normally not involved. And so this is a very, very great social problem, to involve people, not only the people, the families and so on, but also the more poor people and the people who cannot speak as well, and they do not trust to do anything. And that is for me the most important issue we have to do. It was very impressive, I think, what Nika told us about the urban gardening on abandoned areas, which are used only for some years. And it's a good idea to do it with boxes, because you can put the boxes to another place when it comes. That was very interesting. And of course, the facades, the facade greening, because we're also planning such an action. It's always the same. The houses are private, but the place before the house, the street, and so on, are in public use or public owned. And there are always the problem, who is really responsible for such facade greening. So that was the lessons I learned.
Great. Thank you very much, Thomas. Maybe Ine, we can ask you what would be the key takeaways for you?
I thought it was a very inspiring webinar today. It's really nice to see a diversity of actions that you can take. One of the key messages I think is something that Thomas mentioned, is that when you work with citizens and you're asking for input and feedback, that it's really important to also keep them informed on the output. What are you doing with their feedback, with their suggestions? So I think that's really important to keep them on board for future actions. Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much. Andrea.
Well, I would say that in a sentence, I think that a common trait also of the very interesting presentation we have seen today is that when we talk about citizens' participation, is not that we have to push them, but it's more about removing barriers for their participation. And I think it's something that I saw in every experience that has been presented. So, but because more than we think, people is willing to be engaged, but maybe because of access barriers or time of the meeting or other issues is not able. And so, yeah, I do think that we do not need to try to push them, convince them, but it's more about make the condition for them to participate.
Yes, that's a very important point. Thank you very much for that. Yes, making sure that people can actually take part, because usually from what we've seen at least today, is people really want to be involved and improve the places around them. And lastly, to you, Nika, what were the main
Yeah, after
messages?
everything, thank you so much. After everything what my colleagues at the panel said, I think that at least I have heard today in all presentations that we make our citizens responsible for the place where they live, where they reside. So when we are developing this sense of responsibility, so they become a co-owners of the city, of our public spaces, of our transport infrastructure, of our streets and wherever, and they take care and they do not destroy it. Yeah, there is no robbery, so there is no dumping and other things. So this is extremely important, and so nice to see that every city is doing the same effort in order to make our urban environment more pleasant, more comfortable, more inclusive for everyone, which is very important, and also climate friendly, because I have heard in all those initiatives that the climate is an issue, even if you not emphasize it. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nika. Yes, definitely a sense of ownership is very important, and something that you're right. When you build it, people really take a different care of their neighborhoods. So thank you very much again to all the speakers, to the colleagues, to Astrid and Valentin. Thank you also to all the participants. So you've been very active and asked a lot of questions. So you've been great. Thank you very much. And yes, with this, we have reached the end of this webinar, but also of our series on blue-green infrastructure. And we would just like to thank you again, and please we would like to ask you to fill out the survey that will pop up to you. Let us know what you thought, and see you in the future InterReg Europe events. Thank you very much.